Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. So we finally have some details about the government's assault-style firearms compensation program. And of course, my usual rant applies here. If you've got to call something assault-style, it means it's not actually that thing. Assault rifles were banned in Canada in the 1970s. That's a long time ago for those of you keeping track. And they have admitted in court that assault style means nothing other than the list of things that they've chosen to ban. So anything they decide to ban, including this Weatherby Mark V, is an assault style firearm. Okay, so the details of this are kind of interesting because the way they're running this feels kind of like a scam. And let's talk about that. So, how are they doing this? It's going to start with a nationwide declaration period. Now, this is after their little pilot project where they're testing it out to see how it works in Cape Breton. But assuming that goes well for them, and I suspect that they're going to declare it to have gone well no matter how it goes down, even if they don't get a single firearm. But the way this is planned to work is individual firearms will be informed that the program is open and can express their interest in participating in the program by creating an account in the online portal and declaring their prohibited firearms. So here's the issue they have. They've banned a ton of things that they don't have a registry for. Now, when they did have the long gun registry, people said, well, this is just a confiscation list. It has no public safety value. The only purpose for having the registry is so that you have a shopping list in the event you later decide to ban things. And now they're basically proving that right, because the issue they've got is the long gun registry was abolished in Canada, which was a good thing. It was just a cash fire. It wasn't saving any lives. But they don't know where most of these things are. So what they are saying here is firearm owners must submit a declaration to be considered for the program. So they're like, please tell us where these prohibited firearms are. Please, please, please. And if you don't tell us, you can't have any money. However, adding your name to this puts you on a list that they're then potentially going to use for, raids, etc. Because if you put something down there and later decide not to turn it in, or for instance, it gets stolen, it gets, whatever. Maybe you put something down incorrectly. Hey, I forgot that I sold that years ago. Well, yeah, if they don't get it, they're gonna kick down your door at some point. So those who do not participate in the declaration period will not be able to seek compensation. Now here is the really scammy part. Please note that submitting a declaration will not guarantee compensation. So they're not actually promising that they're going to pay you. Tell us what you have, and we'll pay you if we feel like it. Now, there's a few wrinkles on this, but let's get back to those a little later, because they're going to use this language that they've been trying to float that is completely misleading and deceptive. Participating in the program is voluntary. However, individual firearm owners must dispose of or permanently deactivate their assault-style firearms by the end of the amnesty period, or risk criminal liability for the illegal possession of a prohibited firearm. So it's voluntary, but if you don't give up your guns, you can go to jail. They can prosecute you. And so they've been floating this voluntary language as if people can just say, well, I don't want to participate in this buyback. I'd rather keep my guns. And that's not at all how it works. And the government confirmed that in a press conference. Here is MP Nathalie Provost, and she is going to tell us how this is in fact not voluntary, how they'll pursue criminal charges. So here we go.
All of the people in possession of one of the weapons that has been banned since 2020 and will not participate in the compensation program will have an illegal gun in its possession, and that's a criminal act.
Now, how do you think this is going to be enforced? Well, I have been accused by various people of fear-mongering on the basis that I said that this would be enforced with, amongst other things, raids. So here is the Minister for Public Safety saying that they will do raids. Here we go.
When we talk about firearms, oftentimes when somebody passes away, there's maybe some kind of a return of the firearm or surrender to police. It may be found in a context of another law enforcement activity. It may be in the context of a raid. It may be in a range of contexts. So
now, as Ms. Provost actually tells us, one of the issues for the police being able to do raids is that they may not know where all these firearms are. They may not know exactly where they're located.
Right now, in Canada, there's some people with bad intentions who have in their house prohibited or non-restricted or restricted weapons without fair licensing. But the policeman is not knocking at every door to check what is in the hand of each Canadian.
Unless you told the police you have them and you gave them a notice. Most lawyers would typically advise a client not to, not to disclose information to the police as a sort of general category. Here, there isn't actually any obligation legally to participate in the buyback part of the program, to participate in the getting money. But there is an obligation, and that obligation will be enforced with violence to dispose of the firearms. So when they say that this is voluntary, I'm not really sure how they're defining it as voluntary. It appears maybe they're taking their notes on consent from Mr. Trudeau, which I would recommend is not a good strategy. So this is a bit of an issue. Now, we noted here previously, submitting a declaration will not guarantee compensation. And I said this sounds a little scammy. So let's talk about the two elements of why this is a risk for anybody signing up. Well, first, they have budgeted $750 million total. And they've specified that this is for about a limited number of guns. There's essentially, once the money is used up, after that, there's just no more money available. So if you sign up, there's no guarantee that when they get around to you, that there's even a single dollar left. But that's not all. What we're seeing now is that people who have had a connection to the government and to this program, such as Mr. Blake Brown, who was called as an expert in these proceedings, in the whole gun ban court challenges, he is now floating publicly the idea that, well, maybe we don't need to pay gun owners at all. And that is being echoed by Police Souvien, who are, of course, very closely tied to this government, right down to Ms. Provost being an MP. So sign up now, and they may or may not decide, in fact, that they don't want to pay you, either because, sorry, we paid someone else already, or because, you know what, we've decided we just don't feel like it. And then at that point, they've already got your name on the list. It's going to be real easy for them to get a warrant in order to kick down your door and raid your house because you've told them you have these things. And there's just no money. So, yeah, this is starting to look like the government is pulling a massive bait and switch. And quite frankly, this undermines the legitimacy of the whole program. This undermines the confidence that gun owners should have in it when they say this. Now, what can the government do to fix this? What can they do? Well, they can actually commit in a, in some sort of real way, some sort of actionable way, some sort of contractual relationship that says if you sign up, you will get paid. Now, I should note, if you've looked over the list, the compensation amounts are awful. They are well below market value for most of the guns. There are a few exceptions. There are a few makes and models where they seem to be paying above market, and in fact above what you could have like bought a new one for. And I suspect that those makes and models are there to try to drive uptake and to say, look, we got some of these guns back, especially because the guns that are sort of above value are, a lot of them are not great guns, but most of the values are pretty awful. They're pennies on the dollar. They're like less than half. In some cases, it's guns that we're selling for like $30,000 as collector pieces, and they're like, we'll pay you $750 for this. Makes no sense. Also note that the compensation amounts, which of course don't really compensate here, don't cover any accessories, like if you bought optics, if you bought other sort of, if you upgraded the trigger, if you did any of that, none of that is included. They pay nothing for an upper receiver. It's just lowers that they're paying for. And as I said, doesn't matter, like they're flat rates for each make and model. So it doesn't matter, for instance, if yours, if your particular firearm is unique or especially valuable in some way, they will not pay you anything extra for that. So, yeah, this is really not being implemented well. This is an absolute disaster. And quite frankly, they should scrap it. But we'll see. I don't have any confidence in this government making a sensible decision here, but all signs point to this being a massive issue. We're going to, assuming that they get the uptake that they want, we're going to be seeing news stories about people going, I submitted my gun, I sent my gun into the government, and they didn't pay me. They ripped me off. Well, it's funny because if I go on Facebook Marketplace and I say, listen, I will sell you, my phone for $500, send me the $500, and then I don't send them the phone, or vice versa. If they say, I want to buy your phone and I send them the phone, they say, now we're not sending you the money. Those people could go to jail for fraud, but the government can say, we don't want to pay you. And it's actually nothing is going to happen. People are like, oh, will there be a class action suit or whatever? No, they're just able to do this. It's messed up, but that's the way things are. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you found this to be interesting or educational. Please like, share, subscribe. I'll have some links below to where I got those clips and so forth, but so you can check them out, check my work. And yeah, thank you for watching. Hope this has armed you with knowledge. I also would like to thank my Patreon supporters. There's a link to that in the description below as well. At the $50 level, Bottle Shock and Oz, Canada's National Firearms Association, PJs Forever, Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights, Canadian Shooting Sports Association, Kyle Fox, Angela Skelton, Cielo, Shay B, Johan/Phoenix, and at the $20 level, Marvin CZ, Cameron Johnson, Larry Kalniak, Andrew Elsich, Mark, Drunk All of the Baileys, Lindsay Metcalf. Thank you as well to my $10 supporters who will be in the crawl immediately following. Thank you for watching. Hope this has armed you with knowledge. See you next time. I think I said that several times. I'm still recovering. You might have heard me sort of suppressing a cough a bit, but still recovering from some sort of sickness. And but I kind of felt that this needed to be talked about sooner rather than later. So see you next time.